Hey you, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Joy. If this is your first time, please do not make it your last. Do well to like, subscribe, share, and be a part of our community. If you're an OG, welcome back. Okay, so very briefly today we're going to talk about my Australian permanent resident requirements and how we're able to gather all the documents. If you haven't seen the video I made regarding our Australian permanent residents and all that drama and excitement, please check the link in the description. It's there. You need to watch that before you watch this one because you need to understand how the journey started. Okay, anyway, today I'm going to talk to you about all the requirements, everything we're expected to get, and how we're able to source it. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right in. So there are three different permanent resident pathways here in Australia, which is the state nomination, also called the 190 visa, the federal nomination, which is the 189 visa, and then the regional nomination, which is the 491 visa. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about my journey. Remember, we're talking about my journey. So I'm going to tell you about my own nominations and which one I went with and all that good stuff. So after I graduated from school and got my document together, I decided to apply for the state nomination, which is the 190, and the federal, which is the 189. So for the state nomination, you are expected to get a certain amount of points. If you know Australia, you know that the Australian permanent residency is a points-based system. What that means is you must get to a certain amount of points for you to be able to qualify to be nominated. So for the state nomination here in Queensland, we are required to get 80 points. Mind you, I studied Masters of Social Work, right? So for social work, you're expected to get 80 points. And for the 189, you're expected to get 65 points, which was so easy to get, right? Because I mean, 65 points is a piece of cake for some people though. Anyway, so because I wanted to do state and federal, I had to put in what they call the expression of interest, EOI. This expression of interest, you can do both state, federal, and regional, but you just need to use different email addresses because you can't use one email address to open all of them. Okay, so I decided to do both the state and federal. Now, after we put in the EOI, we're waiting for us to get invited, right? And thankfully, by the special grace of God, I was invited for both the state and the federal, but my state nomination, which is the 190, came first. Okay, so I decided to go for it. It is worthy of note to say that before you get nominated, there are certain things that the Australian government will look out for. Number one is your age. There's a certain age you get to, they feel like you're no longer going to be of value to them. I don't know why that is the case, but yeah. So the age mark is 35. What that means is, as you grow older, or when you get to 35, you lose 5 points. Okay, so thankfully I was way below 35 and I was able to accumulate all my age points, which is 25 points. I'm not sure, but I'll put it here what my age score gave me. Okay, another thing they considered was my skill. Remember I said I studied Masters of Social Work. Here in Australia, there are certain courses or skills that they value so much. They put them in the priority list, and what that means is come rain comes on, they are always looking for these professions. Okay, I'm going to list a few, one of which is nursing. Nursing is a big deal here in Australia. IT is a big deal. Engineering, some parts of engineering, I'm not very sure, but some parts of engineering. Social work is a big deal here in Australia as well. And then teaching, early childhood education as a whole is also a big deal. I know there are a lot more, but I'm just talking about the ones that I'm very familiar with. Okay, so if you fall into any of this category and you're in Australia, you're on your way to permanent residency. They also looked at my educational background. Obviously, they want to see, you know, what you have, all your qualifications and all that. They also looked at my work experience. Now, this is only for the state nomination. The federal nomination doesn't require your work experience. They don't even need it because it's federal. That's the benefit of going for federal, right? Anyway, for states, they needed to see that I had work experience. So how it's done is, if you work for 6 months, you're eligible to apply, but you're not given any point. But if you work for a year and over, you're eligible to get 5 points, which is added to your overall score for the nominations. So I did not get any points because I had less than 6 months experience in my field. Postgraduates. Okay, and the last thing that was considered was English proficiency, which is your IELTS and the PTE. That is very important, especially for states. I don't think federal really cares because 65 points, you can get 65 points from many areas. Do you understand? It's easy for you to gather 65 points but getting 80 points is a big deal. I remember writing IELTS 3-4 times just because I wanted to get 80. You know, it was such a big deal for me. Like, it was a struggle to get IELTS. I'll mind you, it's not general, it's IELTS academic, which is even more, but yeah, God helped us and we were able to pull through. So after I got nominated, mind you, if you're a married person and you have a family, you will be nominated alongside your whole family members, as long as you've declared them to be your family members and you have proof that you are a family. And I'm not talking about extended family of grandma, grandpa. No, I'm talking about like your nuclear family, the man, the woman, the children. And if you have extended family, I don't know how that works here in Australia, but I think there'll be additional documents to just prove that you're related, you know, and all that. So it was easy for me to just apply for all of us because obviously we're all in the same family unit and I had evidence to show that. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you guys about the application requirements after we got nominated. There were tons and tons and tons of requirements, guys. It was a lot. So for each person, mine was the most because I'm the primary applicant. So I think I was asked for over 22 documents. My husband, being the dependent, was asked for about 15 documents, and my daughter was asked for about 11. Okay, so being the primary applicant, you're the one that will provide everything, most of it. Okay, and mind you, whatever document you're presenting must not contradict itself, because these people, they know when you're lying, they know when you forge things. The Department of Home Affairs, they are not stupid. Okay, when they want to make you their own, they want to make sure that you're not some sort of criminal that is coming to, you know, so everything has to be crystal clear. Does that make sense? So yes. So now on the list of things that we're expected to get, in no particular order, we were asked to get the police check, the Australian police check. So you have to get an Australian police check showing that you're not a criminal, you're not whatever it is you're not. And then I think that costs about $45. So we had to do for myself and my husband. And then we had to do a Nigerian police check. And this is because I'm Nigerian, right? So I had to do a Nigerian police check. So what we did was we had to call back home, call the Nigerian police and ask them, you know, so what we're trying to do, we encountered some difficulties. So we had to call a family member who went to the police and requested for us to get that. I think we paid about $100,000 to get that sorted for myself and my husband. So that is also something we did. We're also required to get bank statements, and this is for myself and my husband. So we wanted to see our bank statements, overall savings. I don't think the amount is significant to them. I just think they want to see what your family joint income is. So we had to declare that as well. We also had to fill a form called Form 1229. Form 1229 is a consent form if you have a child that is below the age of 18. Now, because of my baby, we had to fill that form to show that we are her parents and we're taking full responsibility for her. So that form is very important. You have to fill it. Okay, if you have 10 kids, you have to fill for 10 of them. Okay, so what that means is that you're consenting for the Australian government to make that child a permanent resident because that child belongs to you or is under your guardianship. So the next thing we provided was evidence of family unit, okay, which is marriage certificate. So we had to provide our marriage or wedding certificate. We also had to attach family pictures. They want to see that you are a family, you're a unit. They already know these things because it's in their system, but then again, they want you to provide evidence that you both are married or you both are, you know, whatever it is you are, and then you both are coming together as a family to be permanent residents of Australia, if that makes sense. The next document I provided was my work experience, evidence to show that I worked in a particular company, and then letter from my manager or whoever is in charge. Just, you know, there's a form they would give you to send to them and they will fill it, just attesting that we know this person, she works here, she has worked here for so amount of time, this is the job she did, she was diligent in her role and all that good stuff, you know what I mean? So they just want to know that you actually worked there, and then there are certain documents or there are certain codes that your manager is expected to fill, which only your manager can fill because they own the company, they know these things. Okay, and mind you, like I said before, this is mainly for state nomination, I think, and maybe regional. I'm not very sure about regional, but this is mainly for state nomination. That's because, remember I said we went for the state route. Okay, so this was a requirement. Another document I provided was my skill assessment from the Australian Association of Social Workers. So there are different assessing bodies in Australia depending on your profession, but they want to see that you were assessed in Australia and your assessment outcome was positive. negative. Okay, so you can be assessed and it will come out negative. Obviously, you cannot submit a negative assessment, right? So you have to make sure that you meet all the assessing body requirements in order to be able to get a positive outcome, which is what you will now submit at the time of your visa application, right? We were also required to submit our Nigerian passports. Obviously, we're Nigerians, right? So we're required to submit Nigerian passports. The next thing I was required to submit is proof of regional residency. So because it was a state nomination and I lived in a regional area, I was eligible to get 5 points. Now this is amazing because do you know what 5 points is? 5 points is a lot, okay? So I lived in a regional city and I was eligible for 5 points. Now you cannot tell them you live in a regional city. They need to see proof, and the proof they need to see is your rental lease. So we provided our house lease, like, you know, rental agreement from the real estate to show that, oh, this is where this person has lived for so amount of time. So they want to see that you've lived there throughout your study period, okay, which we did, because at the time I got my admission to study social work, my husband was like, you know what, we need to move to regional area just so that we can gather as many points as possible when the time comes. And thankfully we did, because it came in handy for us. Okay, so we submitted our lease agreement showing the address. So I think what is important is that they want to see the address, because the address will either tell them if this place is a regional area and how long you stayed there. Okay, another document I submitted is my academic transcript and my certification, my master's degree certification, showing that I have graduated. Okay, and they also want to see my transcript to show that I did all the relevant courses that I needed to do. Guys, these people are thorough. You don't want to know, they are very thorough in all they do, right? So we had to submit so many documents, guys, so many documents. I think I'm even missing a thing or two, but we had to submit so many documents. We also had to submit our polio vaccine. So because you're Nigerian, they believe that you come from a polio, I don't want to say infested, but you know what I mean. Like in Africa, the chances of having polio is very high, just like countries where you have high chances of tuberculosis, high chances of measles and all that stuff. So they want to see that you have your polio vaccine. Now, the polio vaccine is something that you already have, because for you to come into Australia, you must have your polio vaccine. It's a yellow card. I'm going to attach it here. It's a yellow card, which you already have. Okay, but there is an expiration date to that. So if you've been in Australia for over 5 years, you're expected to get a new one. My husband and I hadn't been in Australia for up to 5 years, so we didn't need to renew ours. So all we need to do was just submit it, and then we're good to go. My daughter didn't need that because she was born here and she hadn't traveled outside Australia at the time of application, so it wasn't applicable to her. Okay. And then moving on to the next thing we submitted, it was my IELTS. So if you have IELTS or PT, whichever one shows that you have the actual score, you have to submit it as well. Okay. So guys, after we submitted all the requirements and then we lodged in the application, you need to pay a certain amount. Now, it gets tricky here, right? For a single person, there is a certain amount. I think it's about 4,000 something. I'm going to put the correct price. If you're married, it's going to be for you and your husband. And then if you have children, you're going to pay for each and every one of them. Okay, so if you're a family of 10, you know you're in for a lot of money, right? So I think we paid roughly $9,000 to $10,000 as a family of 3. Again, it's different for different people. Okay, so that was our situation. That's how much we paid. So after we made that payment, our application was lodged, and then we had to go for medicals. So for your medicals, you have to pay, right? You have to pay for that. That is also another payment. So you see that to get permanent residence is also money. So we had to pay for the full medical checkup. They had to do overall for myself, my daughter, and my husband. We had to do overall checkup. We did x-ray, we did blood, everything you can think of. And then after we did it, it was submitted straight to the department. Okay, so that was a full lodgement. Okay, so after we lodged, it took about 4 months for it to come out. Now, mind you, there is no expected time, right? There is no time frame. I've seen people whose permanent residence were granted in 3 months. I think due to the backlog of applications, sometimes it takes longer than even 4 months. Some people 6 months, 8 months, especially if they now send you an email saying they need additional documents, then it will take longer. Okay, so in our case, it took 4 months, and we were granted permanent residency. Guys, I cannot tell you how that day was the most exciting day of our lives. This was literally what we prayed for. God came through. Oh my God. I don't want to relive that memory, but it was such a beautiful feeling. So guys, this is hard journey. Let me know if you want me to do a video telling you about the benefits of becoming an Australian permanent resident. Let me know if you want that video, and your girl will deliver. You know me now. I'm here for you. Premium information, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. If you're an Australian permanent resident and your requirement is totally different from mine, please let me know in the comment section. If you're looking to come into Australia through the permanent resident route and you're doing it offshore and you're confused, do well to ask questions in the comment section and I will reply your questions. Mind you, I'm not a migration agent, okay? I'm going to reply you based on my experience, and if I don't know the answer, if I don't have answers to your questions, I will tell you in all honesty, okay? Thank you so much for watching my video, and until next time, bye.